Welcome to Daily Plunge. We are in the book of Amos, the prophet, chapter 9, verses 1 through 15. It starts off, the Lord is standing at the altar, and we need to slow down and ponder these words. He's not standing on the street corner. He is standing at the place of worship where his majesty and glory are understood. And he pounds the temple pillars. He's shaking and shattering the temple, bringing it down on top of this sinful, idolatrous people's heads, right? And he says to them that, no one's going to escape. That it's hopeless to flee, it's useless to hide, because you're not going to be able to flee and hide from the hand of God's judgment. And whether you go down to the bottom of Sheol or up to heaven, whether you're on a mountaintop or a sea bottom, you will not escape. And it reminds us of Romans 8, that neither height nor depth, or anything in all creation can separate us from the love of God. Well, if that's true about God's love, it's also true about God's wrath. And what separates us from God's wrath is only God's grace. He goes on in verse 5 to say that, he is the Lord God of creation, right? He is the Lord God who is almighty in all things. He creates the earth, and it responds to his will and to his word. He has the power over all of it. The Lord is his name. And this is the Lord that has the power to bring it, to bring judgment. He is mighty and majestic, but he also brings his fearful wrath. And so in verse 7, he says, I brought up Israel out of Egypt. I brought these other nations from where they came from. And, the Lord has created them, but they have no special status outside of what God has given them. And their previous deliverance for the people of Israel is not indicative of their future redemption, because they are a sinful kingdom, he says. And so this disaster will overtake them. But as he says, I'm going to destroy it, but not totally. A remnant will remain. And the idea of a remnant is throughout all of the Old Testament. I will give the command, and I'll shake the people of Israel like out of a salt shaker. He's going to scatter them everywhere. But the sinners among my people will die by the sword. Disaster will overtake them. And one of the things about this is that believers and unbelievers think that they are immune to God's wrath. They think that heaven is real, but not hell. God's saying, oh no. The evil disaster will come upon you because you have not walked in my ways. And so, but as we get to verse 11, there is a great blessing. Israel will be restored. It will be redeemed, but only those who have been called by God, by his name. And the kingdom will be restored, right? It talks about the David's fallen shelter. This is a hut. And so when he talks about David being restored, it's not about his dynasty and his earthly throne. It's about the promise to God's people, that they will be restored. The land will be so much restored that the harvest will be so great. There's going to be such an excessive harvest that by the time they're done, they can't even finish harvesting it all before it's time to plant, because God's blessings will be so overabundant. The last thing throughout this passage is that the greater the blessing, the greater the expectation to live in thankfulness. Hey, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.